You say you're tired. You say you're overwhelmed. You say there's never enough time. But what if the problem isn't your schedule? What if the problem is access? What if too many people have keys to parts of your life they were never supposed to enter? Your time, your energy, your attention, your peace. And every time you feel yourself reaching a breaking point, you hand out another key. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that being a good person meant being available, that being helpful meant always saying yes, that being needed meant being valued. So you kept giving and giving and giving until one day you look around and realize you built a life that everybody can access except you. Let's get into it. Life is a house. Every decision lays a brick. Every lesson becomes a room. Some rooms hold our beliefs. Some hold our fears. Some hold our purpose. And some hold the truths we've been avoiding. This is Shou Talks, a journey through the rooms that shape who we are and who we're becoming. Come in, pull up a chair, and let's go through these rooms. Every room represents a different part of the life we're building, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and practically. Over the past several episodes, we've been laying the foundation. We've explored the rooms that helped us understand who we are: the conditioning room, the awareness room, the identity room, the environment room, the belief room, inner voice room. Because before you can build a meaningful life, you have to understand the foundation you're building it on. But today, we're stepping into a new core room. Today, we enter the discipline room. And this episode, the boundary room, is the first sub room inside of discipline. Because before discipline shows up in your habits, before it shows up in your routines, before it shows up in your consistency, it shows up in what you're willing to protect: your time, your energy, your focus, your peace. That's what this room is about. Not keeping people out, not building walls, but learning how to protect what matters. Welcome to the boundaries room. Let's define this room clearly, because boundaries are one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal growth. A boundary is not a wall. A boundary is not punishment. A boundary is not rejection. A boundary is a standard for access. It's the line that communicates what you're willing to allow, accept, and how people can engage with you. And here's what most people get wrong. They think boundaries are about controlling other people. They're not. Boundaries are about controlling yourself. They're about deciding how you will respond when something violates your peace, your values, or your priorities. And here's why this room belongs inside of discipline. Most people think discipline starts with waking up early, or going to the gym consistently, or sticking to a plan. But discipline actually starts way sooner. Discipline starts when you decide what deserves access to your life. Because every yes costs something. Every commitment costs something. Every relationship costs something. And if you don't have boundaries, you'll spend your entire life paying for things you never intended to buy. For most of my life, I thought being dependable was my greatest strength. If someone needed something, I showed up. If someone needed support or help, I showed up. If someone needed my time, I made time. And I wore that like a badge of honor. People knew they could count on me. And honestly, I took pride in that. But eventually, I started noticing something. I was exhausted. Not because life was hard, although it is, but because everybody had access to me. Everybody's emergency became my emergency. Everybody's problem became my responsibility. Everybody's everybody's need moved ahead of my own. And I was convinced that that was love. I convinced myself it was kindness. I convinced myself that was a strength. But the truth was, I had confused self-sacrifice with self-worth. Boundaries expose your conditioning. Your struggle with boundaries didn't start today. It started years ago. It started in the messages you received growing up. Maybe you were praised for being the responsible one, the strong one, the helper, the caretaker. Maybe you learned that love was earned through service, that approval was earned through availability, that your value came from what you could do for others. And that's how you were conditioned. Of course, boundaries felt uncomfortable because every boundary feels like you're betraying the version of yourself people learned to expect. But just because something was rewarded doesn't mean it was healthy. Boundaries will disappoint people. This is the part that nobody likes. When you start setting boundaries, some people won't celebrate. They'll resist, not because you're wrong, but because your lack of boundaries was convenient. The version of you that always said yes was easier to manage. The version of you that never pushed back was easier to benefit from. And when you change the rule, people notice. Some may call you selfish. Some may say you've changed. Some may make you feel guilty. But hear me clearly. People often mistake access for entitlement. And when entitlement gets challenged, it rarely responds well. Boundaries protect what discipline requires. Every goal requires resources, time, energy, focus, attention, peace. And every unnecessary obligation drains those resources. You cannot build the life you want if everyone else has unrestricted access to the things required to build it. Boundaries aren't about keeping people away. They're about protecting what your future needs from you. That's discipline. One of the hardest things I ever learned was how to say no without explaining myself. I remember saying no to something I genuinely didn't have the capacity for, and then immediately feeling guilty. I started creating excuses, over explaining, trying to make the other person comfortable with my decision because I wasn't actually uncomfortable saying no. I was uncomfortable disappointing someone. But eventually I realized something. Every time I abandoned my own needs to avoid disappointing others, I was disappointing myself instead. And that realization changed everything. Because for the first time, I understood that boundaries weren't hurting me. The absence of boundaries was. Take a moment and sit with these questions. Where in your life are you saying yes when you really want to say no? Who currently has access to your time, energy, or attention that hasn't earned it? What area of your life would improve immediately if you established one healthy boundary? And be honest with yourself with the next one. Are you protecting your peace or are you protecting other people's comfort? Let's make this practical. This week, don't focus on creating 10 boundaries. Create one boundary, one place where you stop overextending. Maybe it's not answering every call immediately. Maybe it's protecting your workout time. Maybe it's saying no to a commitment you don't have the capacity for. Maybe it's refusing to carry responsibilities that don't belong to you. Start small, but be consistent because boundaries don't become powerful when you set them. They become powerful when you maintain them. And that's where discipline begins. The boundaries room is where you stop giving away pieces of yourself without intention. It's where you realize that access is earned. It's where you stop confusing self-sacrifice with self-worth. It's where you begin protecting the very things required to build the life you're trying to create. Because discipline isn't built the day you accomplish the goal. Discipline is built the moment you decide what gets access to you and what doesn't. So as you leave this room today, ask yourself, what am I protecting? And what am I still giving away? Because your future is dependent on that answer. If this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs this conversation. Leave a comment. Tell me what boundaries you're committed to this week. And if you're not already following the podcast, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next room. We're just getting started inside the discipline room. Until next time, protect your peace, honor your growth, and keep building your house. I'll see you in the next room.